Good morning and happy Monday. It took me forever to get this video started because I am sitting here pursuing perfection, and that is kind of today's talk. So, again, working my way back through Anatomy of a Breakthrough by Adam Alter. Came across that piece of advice today. Chase excellence, not perfection. And that makes sense because perfection is unattainable. It's very subjective. Perfect to one person is not perfect to the other, especially in the realms of creativity. Once something is achieved perfect, that is changed, and then we are again left chasing a fleeting image of perfection. Whereas with excellence, you are always putting out your best effort, chasing your best effort, and then leaving it at what it is that day, and then moving on to the next. So that's the biggest one, and I run across that with a lot of people. I work with a lot of people, servant leaders, athletes, people who are used to competing and operating at the highest levels in individual areas of their life. And then they get put into something that is objectively simpler, but they cannot seem to get started because they're chasing the same, I guess, what they perceive perfection that they had in this other area of their life. That if they cannot replicate it and have that same feeling of mastery, I believe, these otherwise high-performing individuals get paralyzed. So that's when I think said the changing of the mind from oh, I need to be perfect to like I'm trying to be excellent. My aim is excellence. I think that's something that will free a lot of people up to start working on something that they really would love to work on. And again, excellence is just as subjective as perfection, I suppose. But then you can find your own level of excellence. My level of excellence on a guitar is not going to be near to the level of someone who has been seriously dedicating their life to it. But we can both pursue a level of excellence that benefits ourselves, our own individual selves. Speaking of, books and literary, I came to this connection, if you will. If you haven't read the book Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom, you should definitely read it. We have our oldest son reading it at present. It's a favorite of my wife's, but I had finally, and I guess the synopsis of the story is that Mitch had a professor named Morrie back when he was in college, and was an okay-ish student, above average, I would recall, and I guess made a bit of an impact on this professor Morrie. Morrie loves teaching, finds out that he is dying of a disease that will slowly paralyze his body from the feet all the way up until he suffocates. And so Morrie dedicates the remainder of his life to chronicling that that decline, that deterioration. And so as the news gets out, a lot of his students come back to visit him and see him one last time, etc., etc. Mitch comes back and rekindles a special connection. Mitch is feeling very despondent in his life, and so he makes the commitment to talk with Morrie once a week, and he decides to go with Tuesdays because that's when he had his class. Last the name Tuesdays with Morrie. So we had our son reading that, and it struck me one night, and I'm curious if the author Mitch made this connection, or if it was just a coincidence as it is. But I remember the phrase memento mori from another one of my favorite books, Series of Unfortunate Events, when the orphans are at the preparatory school. The Memento Mori means remember you will die. So Latin for Mori is death, and that just sort of stuck with me that I wonder if that is a coincidence that it's Tuesdays with Maury or Tuesdays with Death. And Mitch is meeting with the personification of death, for lack of a better words, and he is confronted with this every week, so it's his weekly Tuesday meeting with Death, or with Maury. So I was curious if that is something that he had ever attached. And that's such a powerful book too, as well, because mortality is a tricky subject, especially when we're reading about it and reading about somebody's decline into it in such a as close to a point of view as we can get in that circumstances. I remember feeling very uneasy a lot reading that book, especially got toward the latter stages. Um, and I mean, now even at like 36, I'm 36 now. I know I look a little bit younger, but 36, kind of getting into that, latter stages, or who knows, but at least into that age of my life where I am retrospective of my life, and considering mortality in more of a long-term view. Anyone that knows me, I'm very open about my past struggles with depression and suicidal thoughts, because I really never saw myself living past 25. I think that for me, that was just like seems like impossible. I couldn't explain it. That's just how I felt. And then after, I was able to make my way past that stage in my life and started realizing, okay, I'm gonna be here for a while. Then you start felt living some extra years, my bonus years, as I had once heard it called. But now I think about it more. Especially I have kids, have wife, have limited. Well, I've always had limited time, but it's one of the first times in my life that I am considering the limitations of the time that I have left. So it's an outstanding read, very quick read. So highly suggest you read Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. But if you can, make sure you share the little bit of me asking whether Mitch had made the connections of Maury being a Latin word for death, and his weekly meetings with Maury, meetings with the personification of death. Let me know what books you are enjoying right now, and maybe I get to add it to my reading list, and we talk about it in future videos. Thank you so much for listening to my imperfect, but I hope excellent ramblings. I aim to get better every day, so thank you so much. It's Jordan Patrick James. I will see you tomorrow. Happy Monday.